I want to formally introduce myself. My name is Tallulah Sofia. I am 19 years old and I'm a law student at Reading University in the UK. I'm also this year's Face of Kenya UK ambassador. Face of Kenya UK was an organization that was founded in 2012 by Janet Wanaina, and their goal was to really bring together the Kenyan community, specifically diaspora, and have that community cohesion. And the way they did this was through tapping into the youth. So what the youth did was that we had a pageant-style competition, and every contestant had to raise money for a charity of choice in Kenya, and then the money they raised would go back, and then they get to see it being implemented. So I was able to be a part of that. And one amazing thing about being a Face of Kenya ambassador is it taught me that my dreams are valid, that as a young person, I'm allowed to dream. I can do more than I think I can, and that my age doesn't limit me to make change in the world. If you had told me a year ago that I was going to raise money to do a medical camp at Gatanga Church, and over 400 people who are elderly and vulnerable would come and get blood pressure consultation and would walk away with more of a knowledge of their health, I would have looked at you and said, I can barely cook, so what makes you think that I can do that? But that is exactly what I was able to achieve just this Monday gone. And as I stood there, I realized two things. I realized the power of community. We're so quick to look at the government for aid. We're so quick to blame them. But what we don't realize is that we have the power within ourselves to make a change. I also realized the power of an individual, the power of me as a young person, that if I can go and do this, other diasporan youth can do the same thing, and we can affect more change. It is an honor to be here today. It really is. And it doesn't escape me that I'm probably the youngest person here. And so I want to ask you guys a question, if you don't mind. How many more times are we going to be in rooms where we talk about the future without having the future in the room? Like, you know, I believe that the future is the youth. And I'm continually shocked and surprised when I enter rooms. Even today, this has been an amazing convention, and I've learned so much about agriculture in the last 2 hours than I've ever learned in school in my life. But imagine if you had rows of innovators, future leaders in the room to carry the next baton. Think of the change that we could do. As a diasporan youth, one thing that I realize we need is to be listened to. We just want to be heard. We just want our voices to be carried. Oftentimes we're excluded from political conversations, limited by our age. We live in a society that systematically oppresses us. As a young person, I'm passionate about mental health in young people. I'm passionate about how it affects us. When I sit here and I hear that 3 million young people are unemployed, I wonder how that's affecting them, how it makes them feel, you know, how they view themselves, their efficacy. And I want to give you an example. You know, let's say you wanted your child or your niece or your nephew to be the greatest pianist in the world. Would you shut them in a room and lock the door? You would take them to piano lessons. You'd put them in the room with people who can play piano. You would remind them that there is a future past where they are. And I often feel like with young people, we are told that we're the next leaders, the next entrepreneurs, the next innovators, and yet we are shut out of every room where these people sit. So please, as we focus on the Big Four agenda, there needs to be youth included in the discussion. The presence of young people isn't just for us, but for all citizens. And I was once asked, you know, why did you focus on the elderly in your charitable work and then turn to the youth? And I simply replied, because both are vulnerable and both voices are often forgotten. Thank you very much. I wanted to address the what can be done in terms of young people and mental health. And really it's about breaking into that intergenerational conversation, so generation to generation, because I know it's very comfortable to have that conversation with my friends. We grew up at the same time, we're the same age, but it's much harder to have that conversation with people that are older than you. And it kind of goes back to what I was saying in my speech. It's the power that we have in our communities, because whether it's government, the same problems they're facing is still stigma, which are the same problems we're facing within our community, which is why they're not being able to pour in resources, because you can't pour resources into something you don't believe in. So amongst us, what conversations are we having in our household? How much are we listening to our young people when they're saying they're going through things, or they're feeling depressed, or they're feeling anxious? Because really, we know the solutions. We have it within us. As humans, we are capable of coming up with solutions, but we can't come up with solutions if we never listen to the problems. And so I would say start in your home, start in your community. My mum is a true testament to that. Having her stand up and comment on mental health in young people was really shocking for me, because I was like, hold on a minute, when did this? Because there was a time where we couldn't have that conversation, but we broke down those barriers. And also, important as well, I had to learn to be patient. Because I've grown up in this age where mental health is being talked about, I had to wait for my mum to get to that point. I had to be patient for her to understand. And so if you do those few things, I'm sure we can go further. So.
Thank you so much, Tallulah.